Eating is such an important part of our lives. It really tells you who you are, what you eat, how you eat it, what your culinary traditions are. It tells me a lot about the people of that country. When I was growing up, I always loved food. And what I perhaps didn't know is that I had a very good palate, because everything that I was eating as a child, I somehow recorded and remembered. Even when I was born and I was given a lick of honey by my grandmother. Since that time, I guess I have been recording everything I tasted. Certainly till the age of 20, there were no signs of me being a great cook or anything like that. I was just like most other children, a bit of a tomboy. As I was growing up, I sort of started acting in plays. And people saw me and they said, you should go to England and you should study acting. And at RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, that is where things began to change for me. And what happened was that I missed Indian food. That wonderful food that was cooked in our house on a daily basis suddenly vanished. So I started writing letters to my mother and saying, please, please, I can't cook, teach me how to cook. So she sent me little snippets in air letters. So she wrote 3-line recipes. Take this, take that, brown it a little bit, put a little water, cover it and let it cook. But see, the whole thing was that those tastes were in my head. They were already there, the flavors. I was able to recreate a lot of the dishes that I used to get at home. And I found that discovery absolutely wonderful. And so I started on this career, which alongside my acting career was something that just happened. And the two went along, hand in hand, and have gone along in my life hand in hand ever since.
I'm going to put in some fresh ginger. Now, ginger is something you may not be too familiar with.
Oh, you're not a sweet person. I'm a very sweet person.
Our guest today, cookbook author Madhur Jaffrey.
The fangirl in me is flipping out.
How is it?
Absolutely perfect.
Good. Mix it all up and let it marinate overnight. Now I'm ready to start cooking. I'm Madhur Jaffrey, and this is my masterclass. So India is a vast country. It's the size of Europe, but India was split. So we have now India in the center, Bangladesh on the east, Pakistan on the west, but they were all one country at one time. So we share a common South Asian cuisine. So what distinguishes this food? I'm going to really explain to you about what makes an Indian meal. I'm going to show you how to make Indian breads, how to make rice in the best way. There are vegetables, so I'll show you how to cook a lot of the vegetables. Then the meats. I will show you how to make a goat dish. And I will show you how to make these street snacks as well. But first, I'm going to talk about spices, the magical use of spices. Nobody knows spices like we do. We are masters. We use spices like painters with a little shade of pinkish red and greenish yellow as we mix them. And I will show you how that is done. Isn't it fun to find out what they do in other parts of the world, how they eat, what they eat? So if you just want to learn about this vast nation, Come, watch this program and you'll get a good idea. All the countries in the world stir fry, roast, steam, boil. But what really distinguishes Indian food is its magical use of spices. We've got the spices from all over the world, and we use them like a painter uses colors. We get different shades from the same spice by doing something to the spice. For example, you take a very simple spice like cumin seeds. So you know what they are. They're simple seeds like this, and you can eat them the way they are, put them in oil and hot fat and let them sizzle, and then add ingredients to them. You can have them ground in a ground form, and you put that over various dishes, potatoes, peas, whatever you want. But you can get a third flavor when you roast them. And that's when they become so exciting. So what I'm going to do is roast some ordinary cumin and change it to something different, something spicier that makes your mouth water and nuttier in taste. So the first thing I have to do, I have a small cast iron skillet here. And I'm adjusting the heat to the kind of medium heat, but you have to be very careful and be ready to take the pan off the heat when the cumin seeds are getting brown. So we'll take this much, shall we? I'm using cast iron because it's heavy and it can hold the heat, and it's actually excellent for roasting spices. I always use cast iron when I'm making cumin seeds that are roasted because I've seen my mother do it this way, and I guess I do it this way. But you need a heavy pan because you don't want them to burn quickly. You just want them to roast and turn a shade or two darker. What I do is I have a paper towel handy over here. I'm going to put them in that, and I'll tell you why I do that, because I want them to cool off slightly before I grind them. Not too much, but I do want them to cool off a little bit, otherwise they'll ruin my little coffee grinder that I'm going to grind the spices in. It's a very toasty aroma, very toasty, and it'll spread through the room like a nice little haze. It'll be wonderful. And that's the way you know that they're roasting very nicely. And you'll see that the cumin seeds change a shade darker. You don't want them much darker than that. See, in the smoke coming, you can see the smoke. And they'll go very fast now. So I'm ready to take it off the heat. And they will keep on cooking, so you have to get them out of the pan and onto this paper towel. Do you see how they're just lightly colored? They're a shade darker. And I'm going to get my little coffee grinder. I have one grinder for spices and one for coffee. And I use the paper towel to create a kind of funnel so the spices can go in. All right. Now all I have to do is put it on. Okay, now it's ground roasted cumin. So whenever my recipes call for ground roasted cumin, this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to do it every single time. I've made a fair quantity here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to store it in a little jar like this. Or if you have doubts, always use your paper towel. You close the jar, and you can use this for several months, but this is your ground roasted cumin. I want to show you something else, another spice mixture that we use all the time. It's called garam masala. It's a mixture of only certain aromatic spices. Now, garam means hot, and it doesn't mean that they're hot like pepper is hot. In the Ayurvedic system of medicine, these are spices that heat the body. Now, every household has their own garam masala. These are 6 spices that go into my garam masala. I'll put 2 2-inch cinnamon sticks in here, some nutmeg, about 1/3 of a nutmeg, and I will put the cardamom seeds and the black cumin. It's a very special cumin. It comes from Persia, and you only use a little of it, a teaspoon of it, and the whole black peppercorns and the cloves. Now, when you use this garam masala, what do you use it for? It's a special aromatic spice that you usually put, not always, at the end. When the dish is being finished, you just put a little from the top and stir it in, and then you get this lovely aroma from all the spices. But the whole spices of garam masala can be used in the beginning as well. So now I have to grind them. There we are. Here's the garam masala. Ooh, can you smell it? So it goes with meats, it goes with rice dishes, it goes with certain vegetables. Put a little garam masala way at the end when I want that aroma of these particular spices. This I put in a jar again, and I can use it for the next few months. So you can use it, you can improvise and use it the way you want. So that wonderful aroma of all these gorgeous, gorgeous spices is released. People think that you need a lot of Indian spices to cook Indian food. You don't. We don't use them all the time, hundreds of spices. Once you learn how spices work, you can improvise. Indian food is improvised food in many ways. So there's a lot of freedom as well as a lot of rules in Indian food. And you have to find the space that goes right between them. I'm going to take potatoes and show you how you can do different things with them. And I'm going to make home-fried potatoes with cumin seeds. I will just heat a little oil on medium-high heat and wait for the oil to get hot, because what I'm going to do is let the cumin seeds sizzle in hot oil first before I put the potatoes in, and that's all. So here are my boiled and diced potatoes, and here are my cumin seeds. So the oil is getting hot, and if the oil is hot, they sizzle right away. So I put a little pinch of cumin seeds into the hot oil. You see how they start to sizzle? And I let them sizzle for a bit, as you can see. And now I'm going to put the potatoes in. And we'll have a little salt. Put that in. And you needn't put pepper either. These are like hash browns, but just with cumin seeds. And I will keep on frying these till they're lightly golden. Now you see how they're turning a little brown, and that's all I want. So I just want to show you how just one spice is enough. So the next potato dish is not from the north, where the first one was. This is from the south. And these are the simplest of southern seasonings, which I will combine with the potatoes. It's again on a medium-high heat. And southern food tends to be hotter than food in the north. So I'm going to put a generous amount of mustard seeds there. And the mustard seeds, when I have to wait till they pop. And once they start popping, I will put red chilies. And I will break them up because they will like their food hot. You see them popping now? So now I'm going to put in the red chilies, shake the pan about, and I will put in the curry leaves. These are leaves that are used in South Indian cooking all the time. And I will put these in, and you have to stand back because they go pat, 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 and they spray you a little bit. So you stand back when you do it. Okay. I will put my boiled potatoes in. And I will let these cook. Maybe I'll add a little water to them after they're slightly browned. All right. Now these will be very southern potatoes. I'll add a little water so they get a little soggy and wet. You can smell, you can feel the chilies now. But they clear your throat perfectly, then your throat will be all clear. Some salt. I'm just illustrating this with potatoes, but in South India, this would very often be a cabbage of some sort. And it makes a wonderful dish. Okay. There's a little water in it still. And it should be a crisp, tender vegetable. And that would be it. The next potato dish that I'm going to make is another northern one. We went to the south before. Now we're coming back to the north. And the south, as I told you, they like their dishes spicy and hot. And that was spicy and hot. Now I'm going back to the north and I'm using cumin, mustard, and sesame seeds. A little chili powder. And then something we often do in the north, we add lemon juice. Now I told you already, cumin seeds sizzle. Mustard seeds pop. Sesame seeds fly away. So you have to hold them down and quickly put your potatoes in. So I'm putting a little cumin seeds and a little mustard seeds. And I won't put the potatoes in till the mustard seeds pop. I'm going to put the sesame seeds in, which, as I said, tend to fly away, so you be ready with the next ingredient because the sesame seeds will go all over the world. Okay, so wait for the mustard seeds to pop. If you don't do that, they'll be pungent. Can you hear them popping? There we go. So I'm putting the sesame seeds in and I'm going to put in the potatoes because otherwise the sesame seeds will go flying. Okay. And I'm going to, again, stir and fry this till they're a nice golden color. And they get their flavor from popping. So you see now there are lots of seeds on this. And they're going to taste all roasted and lovely. Everything has an order because everything takes its time to sizzle and pop. The mustard seeds take a while to pop and the oil has to be really hot. So you must remember to get your oil hot. It's not what spices you use, it's how you use them and how you make them draw out the flavor from them that you want. And that's why I call it different shades of each spice because you're drawing different things out of it. So now this is It's beginning to just start turning brown. Now, a little chili powder. There's nothing hot in here so far. If you were a South Indian, you would put more, but I'm from the north. I'll put a little less chili powder. You see, my father didn't like chili powder at all. In my household, there was no chili powder in the food because my father couldn't eat it. But still, it was Indian food. Just remember, chilies came to India in 1498. They weren't there before. We had only mustard and black pepper. No hot spices other than mustard and black pepper. So we are used to eating without chilies. And Indian food is totally authentic if it doesn't have chili powder in it. So now this much is done. I've got them to what stage I like it. I'm going to take it off the heat. I'm going to turn it off. And now I'm going to put in the salt. And lemon juice. As much lemon juice as I want. We're going into another northern direction, which is the lemon juice. We just stir it around. And it's a delicious dish to serve with chapatis, Indian chapatis. All right. So this is done. Now, if it's not too hot, in terms of temperature, I'm going to taste it. Yummy. I'm now going to show you the potato dish that is served with a masala dosa. Have you ever had a masala dosa? It's the potatoes that are inside a South Indian pancake that is called a dosa. But you can eat it with any pancake, you can eat it with any bread, but it is South Indian. And South Indians do something very different from the North. They not only use spices in their food, they also use dals, which are legumes, split peas, or lentils as spices. This is something unique to the south of India, and I'm going to show you exactly how it's done. So here, let me show you what they are. This is called chana dal. It's yellow split peas, the small Indian chickpeas split in half and skinned, and that's what chana dal is. So when your oil is hot, you put in some chana dal, like that. It completely changes the taste of the food itself that you're cooking. It gets a totally southern taste. I don't know how else to describe it, but the fact that you've put a dal as a spice changes the taste of the dish to something that is uniquely southern. Okay, so a few seconds later, you put in the other dal. Now, this is urad dal, which is one of India's original dals, which came to us from ancient times. So, we've got those two things going. As soon as it starts turning reddish, and you have to watch for it, you don't want them to burn. And there is an order. You have to observe the order because that is important. Now they're about to burn. I'm going to take them off the heat slightly and put in some mustard seeds. Okay, so as soon as the mustard seeds pop, I'm going to put in some curry leaves, and as I told you, stand back because they do their thing. And then I'm going to put in some onions. And ginger. And this time, they're going to get their heat from hot, fresh green chilies, and they have been sliced. And I'm going to add them. You put as many as you like. 2 are good, but you can put more, you can put less, and you stir them a little bit now for 2-3 minutes because you want the onion to soften a bit. The thing with India is it's always been split into different states that speak their own languages, have their own culture, have their own clothing, and because they have their own culinary traditions as well, you'll find that the food varies about as much as it does in the countries of Europe. And the South Indian palate eats more chilies, for one, even though chilies came from the New World in 1498, as I told you. They eat the chilies. They've taken to the chilies and they love them. Previously, they used black pepper. Those are the traditions of South India. When you see a long stalk like this, you can just take the leaves off it and just remove the stalk. Okay, now I'm going to add a little water to this, and I'm going to let it cook for 2 or 3 minutes because I want the onions to get soft. Just a little water so the onions get soft, and I will cover it and turn the heat down. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do is mash up the potatoes. I grew up in Delhi, so I didn't eat my first southern food till I was maybe 15 or so. And I just fell in love with it. It was so delicious. The first thing I had was dosas, which are absolutely wonderful. But there are so many other pancakes which you'll find in South India, and they're easy to make, and they're very simple. And this is a potato dish you can eat with all of them. And I'm letting the onion cook. Okay, needs a little more water. It's eating up the water. I'm just going to add. It is smelling like South India. I love that smell. I just love that smell. It's this combination of dals and these particular spices that make a smell of South India. Okay, now I've got the potatoes smashed, and I will make sure that the onions are slightly softened. And you need a little bit of water because this has to be a flowing kind of dish. In the north, we didn't have southern food as such that we could get easily. It was never cooked in our homes. But there were South Indian coffee shops everywhere. South Indians drink a lot of coffee. They grow a lot of coffee. So you could go to the South Indian coffee shop and order a dosa. And that was so heavenly. And I remember when I was, 17, 18, I used to work at the radio station in India. And they had a canteen that served southern food. And I was in heaven. I was in absolute heaven. So here we go. Now I'm going to add these potatoes. And you make sure that you have enough liquid so they stay slightly floaty, is the word I would use. Make sure that the water doesn't run out. Okay. Now I'm going to just mash these, mix it in. Perhaps add a little more water. Now we're getting there. The chilies will give the heat. You could always add whole red chilies to this, but I'm just adding the potatoes, the mashed potatoes, slightly mashed, not a big mash here. I think I'm going to add a little more water. You see the consistency I'm aiming for? And then I'm going to add a little turmeric. I want this to be yellow. And of course, now I haven't talked about this at all, but in our system of medicine in India, the Ayurvedic system of medicine, every spice is given a certain value. So I put a little turmeric in this, and turmeric is anti-inflammatory. It's an antiseptic. As I stir this, I'm going to just put salt in it, which I haven't put, and just make sure always that it has enough water. Salt. And I'm going to put some green coriander at the end. Chopped green coriander, and that will be my dish. Yum. this has turned out just delicious. And I would eat it with any Indian bread or with any Indian pancake. I think everyone should get spices. But here's the thing. Should you get them all? No, you can't. You can't get everything and they'll fill up your spice shelf. And you probably cook other foods as well. Go consult a recipe. Say, this is what I want to make. And just get those spices. Don't get anything else. Next time you make another dish or another 2 dishes, get the spices for just those dishes. And those spices will then get used and they won't get stale sitting in your shelf. As I said earlier, for Indians, spices are like paints in a paint box, and we can get different shades out of them, different colors out of them. I showed you how you do that with cumin seeds, with mustard seeds. So you've learned all that. You can certainly improvise. You know the taste of mustard seeds when they've been popped. Maybe you want to use them on something else. Maybe you want to make a tomato salad and just make it your way and then put mustard seeds that have been popped in oil and maybe some curry leaves way on the top. So that would be lovely. Once you know, learn a few spices, learn a little bit about a few spices and start making up things, improvising. There are traditional dishes, of course, but a lot of it we make as we see fit. Whatever's in the fridge, can I use some of the things that are in the fridge? Yes, I can. And I will do it with this technique or that technique, and I will use spices this way or that way. You make it up as you go along. I want to talk to you about curry. What do you mean when you say curry? It's a very confusing word, this word curry, because it means different things to different people. I don't think we had such a word at all until the British came to India. And I think this word came about around the 16th, 17th centuries when the British began to use this one word for Indian food. And that's the way it has gone into England as a word that symbolizes just Indian food. But we distinguish our dishes by the spices in them. We say, oh, this is made with cumin and asafoetida. This is made with black pepper and chili pepper. This is made with green chilies and red chilies and cumin seeds. And I've got to the point, I have to say, that I too say curry. I'm making curry. But how can you take such a big country with so many states within it, with such different cuisines within it, where every town has specialties and special dishes? How can you take all that food from around India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and call it all curry? Between you and me, I always like to distinguish the different foods by their special names that we use in India. We're going to make what you would call a shrimp curry, and I would call a Goan shrimp dish. Let me start, and then I'll tell you more about it as we go along. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of oil. Turn the heat to medium here. I'm going to put in some shallots, and I'm just going to saute them. Okay, now, it's so simple. All you do is first saute the shallots. So when it's slightly soft and lightly brown, I'm going to take it off the heat. Why am I using shallots? Aren't they very European? No, they're not. Because the Indian onion is pink. And I find that shallots are closest to the Indian onion. Okay, now I'm going to take this off the heat. Now I'm only putting in 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder, but I want that lovely red color that is in Goan curries, and it's all from chili powder because they use a mound of it. So I'm just using 1/4 teaspoon here, and I'm taking it off heat because I don't want it to burn. But in order to get that color and that red look, I'm using paprika. So it's a good substitute. You can use that. And then I have lots of black pepper, which I'm going to put in. It's already ground. And I'm going to put some turmeric. But now, do I want just 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper or do I want more? This is entirely up to you. I'm going to add a bit more to the mix. This is up to you. You can do what you want. This is the wonderful thing with Indian spices. I mix it in while it's off heat. But here's the funny thing about spices. When we are young, we can't really eat spices because they burn the mouth. So, but you see the adults eating spices and you say, I wish I could eat like them. I want to eat like them. I want to be like them. And they're licking their chops and having such a good time with the spices, and you can't eat them. So as a young girl, you just dream about it. So now I'm going to put this on a lowish heat. And I'm going to put in about 1 1/4 cups of coconut milk, which I've got from a can. And you add that to your pan. Get out as much as you can. This dish is actually from Goa, which is halfway up the western coast of India. And all that region, they have a lot of coconut palms, and a lot of coconut is used in everyday cooking. See, all the coastal cooking is so different from the center. We really didn't use coconut, nor did we use curry leaves. These are really from the south and from the coastal areas of India. Indian food, like every food, keeps, changing. And now everybody cooks everything. But there are traditions, which you go to Goa, if you go to the south, you will find people eating just their traditional foods if you go to the villages. All right, I'm letting this come to a boil. Just wait for that. Okay, it's boiling now. I just want to put the shrimp in. They won't take much time to cook. And the salt. And lemon juice. The freshest shrimp that you can get is the best, but not everyone has access to fresh shrimp. So what you have to do is look and see which are the best frozen ones. You don't want the iodine taste in the shrimp. You want them to be as clean and fresh shrimp tasting as possible. So now I will leave these in here to turn absolutely opaque. And they don't take very long to turn opaque, but you do want them opaque. And I'll taste it for salt. I use my fingers for everything. Indians use their fingers for everything. They use their fingers to make batter. They use their fingers to eat, to cut food. So we are a nation that uses their fingers for everything. Of course, we have 100 rules about washing hands, but basically we use our hands for as much of the cooking procedure and eating as possible. Now I'm turning, it's bubbling away, and this is almost done. I'm going to turn the heat down and cook it a little bit more. Soon the sauce will be impregnated with the shrimp taste, and that will be absolutely wonderful. I'm going to take a look at it. I think this is done. This is just done. And it is ready to go to the table and be served. Now, as I said, in Goa, if you were in Goa, you would probably eat this with fat, short grain rice, often that has a little hull still on it. And it's delicious and very healthy rice. But I don't have that here. So I'm just eating it with basmati. So I'm going to serve it and show you what we do with it. I'm going to put this on the side here. I've had this dish on the beaches of Goa. We had friends who knew the beaches very well, who had a house on a beach in Goa. And they always took us to this one fisherman who made this curry, which was absolutely delicious. I try and replicate that dish that they made on the beaches of Goa. So here's my curry. I have it served alongside. Look how gorgeous this looks. This is absolutely gorgeous. And you eat the two together with your sauce. Look at that. Beautiful dish of rice and shrimp. Now, you've made this Goan curry, you've made your rice, you've done enough work to serve it with a lovely, lovely green salad. And that would be just a perfect way to have an evening meal, or a daytime meal if you like. So let me show you some of the foods that are here. You may call them curries. I will call them by the name I like. So here is very much the Goan curry that we made with shrimp, but we are making it with fish, and you can do that very easily. You can change this into a Kerala dish, which is a state further south of where Goa is, but it's in a category of foods from the western coast of India, and I would just call this Keralan fish dish. That's what I would call it. Now, what do we have here? This is quite interesting. This is from the state of Tamil Nadu. It's a mixed vegetable dish, but the sauce is very interesting. The sauce is made from cashew nuts that have been soaked and then ground together with green chilies and with tomatoes. So it's completely different. It is hot, it is spicy, but it's all vegetarian, and for nourishment, it has cashew nuts. So that makes it rather special and a very nourishing dish for vegetarians. So now here we have what we call butter chicken. So what happens here most of the time is that chicken is cooked in the tandoor, and then it comes out of the tandoor and it's probably sitting there, leftovers, people don't know what to do with it. So they have devised a sauce, which is a lot of tomatoes and some spices like garam masala, roasted cumin powder, some lemon juice, and a lot of tomatoes that have been ground to make a sauce. And that's what this is. It's North Indian and much beloved by people in North India. So you can have all these things. You can call them curry or what you want. But this is Indian food at its best, and it varies considerably from region to region. Indians eat all types of meat. And what I'm going to make today is one of the many meat dishes we eat throughout India. You might call it a goat curry. I would call it aloo gosht. In India, those people who eat meat at all will eat goat. That is the common everyday meat. And when we go out to buy goat, we pick our pieces because we want whatever we are making with it to be as tasty as it possibly can. So what we ask for, we ask the butcher, can you give me some neck? Now this has bone in it. We like bone. We like the meat that surrounds bone. And can you give me some shoulder? But there'll be a bit of leg. And what I often love is a bit of the shank, if they'll give it to us, because shank meat is delicious. But there's one thing that we as children just fought for every time the meat came to the table. We said, who's got the marrow bone? Who's got the marrow bone? Because there usually was only one marrow bone. And even for those who don't want to eat the marrow, it's the flavoring, the richness that it gives to the sauce of the meat that makes it the best tasting thing in the world. So we want a marrow bone or two or three, as many as you can get, inside the particular dish that we are making. Now, what I'm going to make for you today is aloo gosht. And this particular dish is from Pakistan. In Pakistan, a lot of the vegetables are eaten with meat. They're cooked with meat. So what I'm making is potatoes and goat meat. So to start with, I'm going to put a little oil. This is medium-high heat. You need 4 tablespoons of oil. Now remember, you need the oil. Otherwise, you won't be able to fry the meat the way it needs to be fried. This is very important. If you have extra oil, you can take it out at the end, but put it in to begin with. Otherwise, the meat just won't fry and brown properly the way you want to. There's a word in India called bhuno, which is the act of browning. And that concentrates the flavor of the meat or of a vegetable. And this is essential at some stage. Now, some people do it early on, some people do it later. Now, I'm going to put into this hot oil, some cinnamon, and some green cardamom pods. And what happens when you put hot oil and whole spices together, the spices give their flavor to the oil, and it's like a quick injection. The spice flavor goes right into the oil. These whole spices go into the dish and stay there, because people know that when they're eating, they're going to put it to one side and not eat them. Next thing I do is put a whole red onion that has been cut into rings in a whole red onion. Now I'm going to let this cook for a little while till it is lightly browned. All right. You might well ask why she's doing a class on Indian food. Why is she talking about Pakistani food? Because here's the reason. India was one large country at one time. When I was growing up, India was Pakistan, Bangladesh, they were not there. We didn't even dream about them. There was only India, and that was the whole land mass that included Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. In 1947, politics was such that the land was divided by the British into 3. But the food didn't change. We eat very similar things, and even now, many, many years have passed, we still tend to eat the dishes that we ate when everything was all India. But it is from the region of Pakistan, this particular dish, and therefore I'd like to acknowledge that and say this is from Pakistan. The onions, they take their time. I'm going to let them brown a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, so now the onions are getting to the point where they are just turning slightly brown. What happens in India is that you need to make a sauce for these dishes. And the most common sauce for many of the meat dishes is onion, garlic, and ginger. They form the base. Ultimately, they kind of disappear because you cook it for so long. But they form the base of the sauce that is crucial to meat dishes of certain kinds. All right, now my onions are done to the way I like them. So I'm going to put in some garlic that has been mashed and some ginger. You can grate the ginger, you can chop it very fine, You can do what you want, but you want it fairly fine. So I stir it a few times, and now I'm going to put in all the meat. My marrow bone, and they all have bones, so you let it brown a bit. Not very much. At this stage, you're not worrying about the browning at all. It's medium-high. I'm going to turn it down slightly and then turn it back up. So I gave the meat just a couple of minutes so it would unstick. Just a minute or so, and now I'm stirring it around. Now we'll put in some turmeric, and rather a lot, a tablespoon or so of freshly ground coriander. If you don't have fresh coriander ground, you must pound it. I pound my coriander every time I use it. Or you put it in your little coffee machine and grind it. Fresh coriander has a taste that is unlike anything. And you should be able to smell it. If you smell your coriander and it's smelling of sawdust, throw it away. Okay, you stir it a few times, and now I'm going to put in a cup of water. This is a trick of cooking it where you don't brown it at this stage, you brown it a little later. And this is a new trick that I learned in Pakistan. So you bring the meat to a boil, and now I'm going to put it on higher heat. So now I'll cover it, but as soon as it comes to the boil, I'll turn it down a bit. It sort of tenderizes it just enough and makes it not stick to the edges, and it gives it the ability to not attach itself to all the other pieces and brown easily. So now I didn't put any chili powder in there, so I will put some in. I like it spicy. I would put at least a half teaspoon, but if you don't like it spicy, you put what you like, or you put none. But I love it. I love chili powder. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to use about a half teaspoon. All right. Now it is boiling and frothing away. I don't like this frothing water, but I need it just for the first phase of this cooking. Now I will cover it. All right, see? Now it's ready to be covered. And it won't be on very low heat because it's not cooking. It's actually just cooking for 10 minutes with all the water to be boiled away. So it's medium-high at the moment. I want all the water to boil away, and then I'll brown the meat. So as you can see now, it has done two things because I covered it. The meat has cooked for 10 minutes, but I cooked it on high heat, fairly high heat, so all of the liquid is evaporated. Now, I'm going to just keep browning it like this. Let it brown, it's mostly oil at the bottom, and I will be very careful with the heat and turn it down as all the liquid starts to vanish. And the liquid is going, almost gone here. You see how lovely it's looking already. So I'm just going to let it brown in this lovely oil that has come out from it. And then I will add water to it and let it cook like you do with any stew. And I can see the marrow bone that I'm going to eat. It's right there. It's all for me. You see how lovely it's looking. It's this look that you want, this browned, lovely look. I think to get juicy meat, first of all, the quality of meat counts. It has to be good quality meat. Okay, so here, look. Isn't that great? It looks so perfect. So now I'm going to put a lot of water, 4 cups of water. There are many people who want their meals fast. But once in a while, you want something that's deeply satisfying. And then you take the time and you make this. And you'll be so satisfied when you eat it. I too have not that much time. Because it takes time, I would make it for a special occasion. But there's very little work in this. The only work is the weight. There's very little I'm doing other than shopping for the goat. The actual browning and all takes very little time. So I'm not concerned. There's not effort. All right. So now I'm going to cover it, let the steam build up for a few minutes, and then I will turn it down and I will set the timer for an hour and I'll go read a book or do something else and let it cook on its own. You can put it in a 325-degree oven also for an hour, but I just do it the simple way, on top of the stove like this. So now let's look at the meat. It's cooked for 1 hour and it looks tender. And I will now put in some potatoes. All right. You put in any potatoes that are not floury. They should be satiny potatoes. You don't want floury potatoes that are going to break up. You want solid, satiny potatoes. I use red potatoes very often. That's my favorite. And you get them the size of eggs roughly for this. And they will take at least half an hour to cook, and so will the meat. The meat needs to cook a little more. And you see it has a lovely sauce. It'll lessen as it cooks now. But this sauce is wonderful with rice, so you put it in a bowl and you eat it with bread, and you dip the bread in the sauce, and you take a piece of meat and you eat it, and it's delicious that way. There's my lovely marrow bone still in there. All right. Now I'm going to take this and cover it and let it cook till the potatoes are tender, which is probably about half an hour, a little more. All right, now let's look at our aloo gosht. It should be absolutely ready by now. Okay, so it's steaming, it's wonderful, it's quite ready. It needs just one thing. I'm going to add a teaspoon of the garam masala that we made earlier, and we stored it in a jar. So now you just open the jar and you take about a teaspoon of it and you sprinkle it all over the top. And it's going to give those lovely aromas to the aloo gosht that we just made. We put the garam masala at the end because we want those aromatic flavors to come right at us as we are serving ourselves this wonderful dish. Because I'm going to stir it in now. It'll be fresh in there, and when I serve it, I will smell it as I even start serving. Even before I eat, I will smell it and say, ooh and ah, which is what Indians want to hear all the time. Certainly Indian chefs want to hear oohs and ahs coming from the people who are eating. All right, now shall I take it out and put it in a dish? You can have it in any kind of dish you like, but I'm going to put it closer to myself. Okay. This piece of cinnamon is going to go right in because the people I'm going to serve it to know that they shouldn't eat the cinnamon. But it looks very decorative in the plate. It is almost looks like a garnish, and it sort of is. It is a garnish. Now this piece, I'm going to suck all this wonderful stuff around it. It's going to be juicy and wonderful, and you can only do that with your hands. So I'm going to eat with my hands and suck all this wonderful stuff. Nothing is going to go wasted. I don't want the meat to be falling off the bone. I don't like untidy meat. I like pieces of meat. I like the pieces of meat to be visible pieces, but they should come off the bone. easily and quickly. Okay, so this is the way I serve it. Where's my marrow bone? Here's one marrow bone, little marrow bone. You go in the center. And here's another marrow bone. I can put that. I will display my marrow bones with pride so the people who are eating can pick a piece with a marrow bone and have it. So here we are. This is aloo gosht, or you can call it a goat curry from Pakistan. I've just made this lemony chicken with green coriander. I happen to have a lot of green coriander in my fridge, and I wanted to do something with it, so I made this chicken. And it has, of course, the lemon juice, but it has lots of green coriander. The lemon juice gives it a little bit of sourness. The green coriander gives a kind of freshness, and so does the ginger. And that combination is exceedingly pleasant to eat. So what I'm going to do is just finish cooking, and I'm going to take it and plate it. It's nice and hot, and I'm going to plate it. You'll find this recipe in the cookbook, so I'm putting a little bit of the sauce on top. This is the lovely lemony coriander sauce. And the legs, let's put them here. We want a lot of the sauce because people just love the sauce. So this is it, lemony chicken with fresh coriander. It has a lovely sour feeling to it from the lemon and this very fresh feeling from the green coriander. You know, Indians love kebabs, Pakistanis love kebabs, Bangladeshis love kebabs, we all love kebabs. And kebabs are usually made with ground meat and with lots of spices like ginger and garlic and onion inside them to give them flavor. And then they are either put on a skewer, you can have skewered kebabs, you can have flat kebabs. But I've discovered I wanted a quick way to make kebabs that was not so difficult, because some kebabs can be quite dainty and they fall apart. And I'm always so upset when they fall apart. So I said, why can't I do them in the oven in a sheet and cut them into squares and eat them that way? So I worked out a method in which I take the kebab meat, into which I put all the spices and the seasonings, the fresh seasonings, and then I leave it overnight in the fridge so all the spices get into the ground meat, which is usually lamb, or it can be whatever you want. You can make it with turkey if you like. And then I pat it into a sheet pan. And into that sheet, I just pat it in and I grill it. Or bake it, grill it. There are two ways of doing it. You can do both. And then you cut it into squares and put onions and chutney. You need the chutney, you need the onions on top, and you serve it that way. Just onions are sometimes enough. I remember these onions being very special. They're very thinly sliced onions. And then very often, they're soaked in cold water for a while, and then you squeeze them dry. So a little bit of the sharp onionness goes out, and a mild onionness stays, and you scatter these over the square, kebab squares, and they're just wonderful that way. Indians make absolutely amazing vegetarian food. I think it's the best in the world because it has such variety. whatever vegetables you choose to eat, just remember that there are dozens and dozens of ways of making them. This is our vegetable chapter. I'm going to make a whole lot of vegetables and show you a whole lot of vegetables. We eat really, I would say, thousands of vegetables that seem to be in India. Some are Indian, like the eggplant, which was originated in India. And there are lots of squashes that originated in India. And some came to us from other countries. For example, cauliflower is not an Indian vegetable. It came from the West, and we eat a lot of it. But let me first show you how we use the vegetable itself. Now, you have a whole head of cauliflower. You break it off wherever the stem is, and you cut it into smaller florets, like this. Now, this is quite large, so what I'm going to do further is I'm going to cut it even smaller, and there's a technique to doing it. So you want about 1.5 inches at the top. So you cut up to this point, and then you pull. So you're not cutting the rest of it, and the rest of it has a more natural look to it. And I've done it for all the cauliflower here. So we have smaller pieces that are about 1.5 inches in diameter. And I'm going to cook this cauliflower with potatoes, which is a particular favorite in India. So I have it on medium. I'm going to let it heat up, put a little oil in it, because I need to brown it slightly. But I'll let this oil heat. These are spices that I'm going to use slightly later. So I have cumin. I'm going to put them all in a little bowl because I'm going to put them in all at the same time. Cumin, coriander, turmeric, and chili powder. I'm going to put them all in here. And now my oil is heating. So what do I put in the oil? I put two things that I absolutely love in the taste of Indian food. Asafoetida, the truffle-like taste. And I will put that into my hot oil. And it should sizzle. Okay. And I will put the cumin seeds and leave them to sizzle a little as well. So now I'm going to put in all my cauliflower and my boiled potatoes, and I'm going to stir and fry them till they are nicely browned on all sides. And this is going to take its own sweet time because you can't hurry the process. So this is perhaps a very good time to talk about Indian vegetables and non-Indian vegetables and Indian vegetarian food. So let me tell you first of all that Indians make absolutely amazing vegetarian food. I think it's the best in the world because it has such variety. There are bean dishes, there are vegetable dishes, there are dishes that are made with different grains like millet. You don't miss the meat at all. You don't think about the meat. You're so satisfied with the taste and the fullness and the completeness of the vegetarian meal that you don't want anything else. It's so complete. I remember whole meals that I used to look forward to with special foods that had only Indian vegetables, ancient Indian vegetables that we have been eating for thousands and thousands of years. So Indian food, the vegetarian aspect of Indian food is quite exciting. Now, I think my cauliflower is pretty well done. I'm going to take it off the heat slightly, and I'm going to put the ground spices, all the ground spices that I mixed earlier. I'm going to scatter them over the top. I want the flavor of ground spices. So first I'll do it off heat, get it nicely. Ooh, see, it's smelling absolutely wonderful already. I want a little lower flame. put it back on the lower flame, and I'm going to put water. If you start cooking meals where meat is not prominent, it's just a side thing, it's one of the many things, I think you'll persuade more children to begin eating vegetables. I think children eat more vegetables in India because they're used to them. So now I will put salt. You need about a teaspoon of salt. So salt it generously. So after I mix it thoroughly like this, I'm going to cover it and let it cook for a few minutes, like 5 minutes or so, till it's all tender, and then it will be ready to eat any way you want. It's very interesting what happens in Indian schools, at least in when I was growing up. All the kids brought their own lunches from home. Then one girl was a Jain, and Jainism developed in the BCs about 500 years before Christ. And their dishes are so delicious because they make only vegetarian food, but they're all so full of flavor, and it's just spices. It's just the way they grind and use their spices that are different from the rest of the world in India. I used to love what my Jain friend brought to school, and I would jump on her food because it seemed so much tastier than mine. Everyone else's food tasted very good. All of us found ourselves eating what somebody else has brought rather than what we had brought to school. So let me look at this now. Let me look at these potatoes and cauliflower. See, it's a little hard still. So I will let it cook some more. It's a little hard to break with my hands. That's the only thing. We like a little crunch, but we don't want it to be so hard that you can't cut it, as it were, or break it with your hands. In Indian vegetarian food, you have to remember that a dal, a rice or bread, and yogurt make a complete protein. That kind of knowledge has just come to us really from grandmother to daughter to daughter to daughter. It goes really through the women. Not that men are not aware of this, they are. But it is really because the recipes are passed down by women. This kind of knowledge in India is passed down by women. I'm going to look at this because I think it's getting there. Yeah, the water's gone, so I will taste it for salt. I think this is absolutely done. So I'll just take a little piece here of cauliflower. Again, I do everything with my hands. And this is ready. See, it was tender enough for me to break it apart easily. There's no water left. I boiled off all the water. And this is your cauliflower and potatoes with cumin and asafoetida. Tastes absolutely yummy. What you'll see in front of me is the cauliflower and potatoes with cumin and asafoetida that I just made. It's absolutely delicious. We sprinkled a little green coriander over the top. All right, now I'm going to show you another dish that I've made, and that is okra. Now, okra comes to us from Africa. It's a dish that Indians love. And here, because we don't like the slime in the okra, a lot of people don't, I do, but some people don't. What you do is you fry the okra till all the slime goes out of it, and it's totally unslimy when you eat it. You add a few spices. You add cumin, you add a few other spices, but the main taste is the okra and onions, and it's delicious. And what we have here is eggplant. Now, this dish is, of course, as I said, the eggplant is native to India. And we do something very special with it, which other countries do as well. We roast it. Now, most Indian kitchens at one time had either a wood fire or later on a coal fire, so they had ashes. And what we used to do was put the whole eggplant inside the ashes, bury it in ashes, till it roasted and got charred all over. Then we took the charred skin off and cut up the inside of the eggplant very finely and stir-fried it with onion, garlic, and ginger, and with a little tomato and a few spices, including garam masala, which I've talked to you about earlier, just to give it that final lovely aroma. And this combination is called a bharta. Bharta is when you chop up something very small. So this eggplant bharta is that dish that is made from roasted and then stir-fried eggplant. Whatever vegetables you choose to eat, just remember that there are dozens and dozens of ways of making them. If you choose the Indian route, you can go with 1 spice, 2 spices, 3 spices, 4 spices, or you can follow a particular recipe like this one. And just remember how to plate it. Put it together with, say, a yogurt relish or a salad and some rice or a chapati, and then go to town and have a wonderful, wonderful meal. Rices are ancient in India. Even when Alexander came to India, he saw rice growing in the fields. And there's a history, there's a tradition of eating that we've had for a long time, meals with rice. So when I go to the market and I want basmati rice, I'll probably look for a rice grown in a particular region. Dehradun, which is in the foothills of the Himalayas, produces very good basmati rice. They're very nutritious, wonderful waters, and they only are the ones that produce good quality basmati rice. With basmati rice, there are certain things that we require. We require the aroma. We require that it be aged. Therefore, you look at the color. It's a yellowish color, and that is what comes from aging. The characteristics of each rice is different. Basmati rice grows a little bit fat, but mostly it elongates. It expands and becomes longer. Some actually grow 1/2 inch or even more in length. I've had rices that I bought, lovely basmati rices, that grow so long. And a little bit of rice becomes a lot of rice. It's absolutely beautiful, and it turns white. And the other thing that we say about rice, especially basmati rice in northern India, we say that when you cook basmati rice, each grain should be like brothers, close to each other, but not stuck to each other. So I'm going to show you how to wash rice and how you let it soak. And you wash it in a way that we wash dals as well. You wash it, the first rice water, you shake it and get it out as quickly as possible, because rice starts absorbing liquid, and you get it out quickly because you don't want the rice to absorb this dirty liquid. I do it all now automatically. I'm not thinking about all these things. I just know that this is what you do and you do it. But for you, if you're doing it for the first time, just remember the reason why you're doing this. You're getting the polish off. When you polish the rice, you're getting that starch off, because that starch will make the grains stick to each other. And you're getting the dust off. Okay. So 5 or 6 times usually does it for me. The water will never run clear. It'll be almost clear. Now it's pretty much there. And I'm going to leave it to soak for half an hour. So the grains will swell a little bit. Now, when rice has been soaked, that is another way in which you don't let the grains stick to each other. All right, so I'm going to just cover it well with water, and you just leave it to soak for half an hour. All right, this is rice here that has been soaked and drained, and I'm ready to start cooking it. So I have a pot. Now here's the important thing. You want a tight-fitting lid because you want the rice to steam. It's cooking in minimum water, and it's going to steam. You can cook it on top of the stove. You can put it in the oven. I'm going to put it in the oven because it's so much easier. There's nothing in the pot at all. And I'm going to put in this washed and soaked rice. For every cup of rice, I usually put about a cup and a third of water for rice that has been soaked. So here is the rice, and I will add the liquid. And this is going to be very simple. No salt. I'm going to add no salt because we eat our rice with rather spicy, salted foods. So the rice is usually plain. So I will bring this to the boil. But before I do that, what I must do is add another protective layer. And even if I were at home and I didn't know my pot and I was cooking in a pot for the first time, I would add a protective layer. And in my case, it is foil. So I will put foil on top and cover it. I would bring it to a boil. Let's put it here, bring it to a boil, and all right. As soon as it is boiling, and you have to be sure that it is boiling, because steam will start coming out from all sides, and you can also take a little peek, but be sure that it's boiling. Let it sit for a minute like this, so the steam builds up, and then quickly put it into a 325-degree oven and let it steam for half an hour in the oven. And that is a sure way to get good basmati rice with all the grains well separated. So this is rice that has just come out of the oven, and I'm going to open it, and I will show you how to serve it. Rice can be ruined in 20 different ways, and you can ruin it by the way you take it out. So let me show you how to do it properly so you don't break the grains. At every stage, what you're aiming for is you don't want to break the grains. Okay, here we are. So the first part, you just take like this. You just get it off gently so you get many grains that are completely separated. Then you put them out in your dish. Now you will get to a point where you have lumps. So what do? You go in from the side. You take a whole lump out. Now this is a lump. What do you do with it? Just put it in your plate where you're serving and go with the back of a spoon. Do this. See how you separate it? You don't go like this because then you break the grains. Okay, so this is the lumpier part. So you break it up, and there you are. You have basmati rice that is being served so that you don't break the grains, and that is very important. So, what's in this pot? This pot contains a lamb biryani. Now, what is a biryani? For those who don't know, a biryani is a very complex, rich rice and meat dish. Usually it's rice and meat. That's a typical biryani, though people make biryanis with vegetables and with chicken as well. But usually it's rice and meat cooked together. And this is very special. It came to India through Persia. So it's basmati rice and lamb cooked with spices, but in a certain way. So the spices that we are using in the cooking of the lamb would be cardamom seeds, nutmeg, coriander, cumin seeds, cloves, chili powder, and then we will have something very special that we are going to add to the mixture of rice and meat, which is saffron. Saffron comes from Kashmir. The saffron crocus. It's a crocus flower from which you get the little stamen. And I've been to Kashmir where saffron grows just to write about the saffron that was growing there. And it's a huge field surrounded by mountains. Kashmiris, who are great poets and fantasize about things, they're an inland nation, but they consider the growing crocus a sea between their mountains. So what you do with saffron, you just don't plunk it in. What I do, which I've learned to do from the Kashmiris, is that you roast it very slightly and then take them off and put them in hot milk. Not boiling hot milk, but just hot milk. And let them stay for 3 hours or so till the color comes out of the saffron. And this is what you get. And this is what you're going to dribble on the rice. So you have grains that are yellow and grains that are white. So once your meat is cooked and your rice is partially cooked, you cook it only for 6 minutes in boiling water, to which you've added some seasonings. You can add cinnamon, cardamom, things like that. Now you have this rice and you have this meat, and you put the meat down at the bottom of the pan. And then on top of that, you make a hillock of rice. And you make a hole in the center so you want steam to come up and finish cooking the whole thing. Then you dribble the saffron threads, the sauce on top. So some of the grains will be yellow. And you put a little bit of fried onions. Now these are fried onions. They're fried till they are crisp. And we keep them as a garnish. So now what I'm going to do, this is cooked in the oven for a good hour, and I'm going to take it out and serve it. But why is it cooked in the oven? How do they do it in India where they didn't used to have ovens? There was a technique that was used called dum, D-U-M, dum. And the lid was always sealed with dough. So you had a completely sealed pot with charcoal ashes at the top and heat at the bottom, and the pot was left there to do the dum. And that's how biryanis were made in the olden days. Now I'm going to just take it out. The pot is it's a little hot, but I think I can manage. There we go. Now if you look at it, there's a hole in the center, and you see the two colors, and underneath is your wonderful meat. You'll find the biryani recipe in our cookbook that you'll get. Okay, here we go. Now let's bring up. Now we're mixing. See? Now you're getting a little bit of the meat, and you're getting a little bit of the rice, and you're getting the two colors on the rice. Now this is a grand dish, and you don't serve much else with it. So you make a large quantity because that's all people are going to eat, so remember that. It is definitely a party dish. It's a dish, or you can have it for the family, but when you make this, there is nothing else. This is the main event. Now, I've got most of it out. Now, I'm going to garnish it the way Indians would garnish it. All right. So first of all, hard-boiled eggs go around, and These are almonds that have been roasted lightly. Those get scattered over the top. Then you have the onions that we fried. And I'm going to put some raisins as well. So it's really up to you. What you like, you put more of. But this is how a biryani would be taken to the table and served. So I'm going to just take it and show you how we serve it. Look at that. Look at that. That looks absolutely beautiful. And it's served usually very simply. There's a yogurt dish, usually a raita of some sort, and you have a salad. Make a big salad because people like lots of salad with the biryani. And there are many ways of eating it. You can eat with a fork if you like, but I don't. I don't eat biryani with a fork. I eat it with my hands. So your hands go in and you make a morsel. Then you just bring it to your mouth and you eat it and you're in heaven. In India, in the north, you meet someone and you say, have you had your dal roti? Dal is legumes and roti is bread. India has 100 breads. You can go there and eat a different bread every day. Now we are on our bread chapter. We are showing the basic Indian bread first, and that is a chapati or a roti. You can call them both things, roti or chapati. The word chapati is actually quite interesting. Chapat means to slap. And in the making of this, you find that you will use your hands. You'll do that very often. You can actually make the whole chapati this way, or you can roll it out. And there's a little slapping or a lot of slapping in the making of a chapati. So this is what I'm going to start here. So this is whole wheat flour. We have to use finely ground flour, and you can only find that in Indian shops. So when you go into an Indian shop, you ask for atta, A-T-A, that's what you would call it, atta. And that is the whole wheat flour that is used. And into this atta, I will put water, enough to get a soft dough. Now, every kind of bread that you make requires a different dough. The softest dough that you can handle is what you want for a chapati, because you want it pliable, you want it soft, you want it pliable, you want to be able to break it with your hands. So I'm going to slowly add this, and of course my hands will get dirty because that's what happens, and you start putting it together like this. I'm using lukewarm water. I've learned it from my niece, and she always uses a little warm water. All right, so you keep going till you bring it all together. It gives it a stickier texture, the warm water. And I think that really helps when you're rolling it out. Sometimes, depending on the day, you might need more, you might need less water, but just remember that you're aiming for a soft dough. Once you get it all together, you have to knead it for 10 minutes. And you can take it out from the bowl and knead it outside. I'm going to put a little flour. I had made it too sticky. So you just correct. But this is good now. Now I'm going to knead it, and it has to be soft, but it has to be kneadable. And in India, you tend to knead like this, but you use whatever method you have of kneading and getting your dough together. Chapatis are what we ate every day. So I've given a recipe that makes 6 chapatis, and I'll tell you why it's 6. Because usually I eat 3 chapatis. My brother eats 3 chapatis. We eat 3 chapatis a person. So texture seems to me quite good. But I have to knead it for 10 more minutes. It's the perfect texture, but I need the kneading. So I covered the chapati with a damp cloth. The dough for the chapati is right here, covered with a damp cloth, and it had to rest for at least 3 hours. It's good to let the gluten just do its work. Now I'm going to take it out, and I can give it another knead. And you see how pliable and soft it is. All right, now I'm going to make sure it's all smooth, and I will divide it into 6 parts. Let's make a roll. You don't have to be exact. After a while, you'll find that you'll make things of the same size all the time. So first you break it in 2. So this will make about 6 chapatis. And then this should do into 3 equal parts, roughly. Like that, and what I do is just hold them in your hand and feel them, if they should weigh the same. And each one, we make what we call a pera with it, which is a ball, and then just flatten it slightly. So it's a little finer at the edges. I'm just going to show you one, but this is how I would do each one. This is very soft dough. So you need to take a little flour and spread it on the bottom. Okay? Spread it there. Now you roll with a light hand. Before I fully roll out the chapati, I have to tell you one thing. I have here a griddle. It's really a crepe pan. It is very solid metal, and it's sold as a tawa, which is the Indian word for a griddle to make chapatis. I've got it heating on medium heat because I want it really hot when I slap my first chapati on. So now you're rolling it in dough, and you're going to make a first round chapati. They can go from 5 to 6 inches. That's the normal size of a chapati or a pulka. This is what we eat at home. We like them thin, we like them round, but you roll it out to what you can. Okay, so now this is a possible chapati. Let's try a little thinner. Okay? Now, here we go. Now, the griddle has been heating, and I will do this because I want to get as much of the flour that's on it. I want to get it off. So this is the chapati. It's the chapat, the slap step of getting the flour off. And then I slap it onto this. And I let it cook for about 30, 40 seconds, and that's it. And you know when it's done by looking at the bottom. It's a dry pan. You have to have something that can go under it. And just do a little more, and then I'm going to turn it over. In the villages, they'll make huge rotis. They'll make them bigger, and very often they're not called chapatis. They're called rotis, but it's the same thing, exactly the same thing, made bigger. Now, I can turn it over again. I have to get the other side to have the same kind of spots. It's like this. You see little brown spots? And now, I take a little wad and I do this. And you see it begins to puff up a little. And the minute it starts puffing up, I am ready to eat it. Now this is my chapati. and I turn it over. Oops, don't go off. All right. And this is now ready. You don't cook it much longer. And I take the chapati and I put it between a cloth. I cover it with a cloth. There's a plate underneath. I put an upturned plate on the top. Now, if I were to make a second chapati on this griddle, I would wipe it off. Because you see what happens, there's this flour that is sticking to the chapati, and I just get it out here. And you turn the heat to medium low because you don't want it to overheat while you roll out your next chapati. So there you are, an Indian chapati. You can roll it out thinner, you can roll it out thicker, but they are really easy to make. Through the breadth of North India and South India and East India and West India, we have tons of different breads and tons of different pancakes that we eat almost as breads. So we make those all the time for snack foods, for meals, for big dinners. So you can get fried breads. Among the fried breads, there are breads like puris, which is very similar to this dough, only you add a little bit of oil when you're making the dough. And you roll out smaller puris and you put them into deep oil that is hot. Then we have the bread that is of the paratha world. And a paratha is whole wheat flour that is made into a dough, but it is layered with fat. So it has layers of fat inside, rather like flaky pastry, but not that complicated at all. And you can roll it out square, you can roll it out in triangles, and you can roll it out round. Or you can stuff a paratha. You can stuff it with potatoes and green chilies. I love that. I absolutely love that. Or, best of all, you can have gobi paratha, which is cauliflower. And that is then put on a griddle and just heated and cooked with very little fat or oil. So there's a whole world of these breads that you can make. And of course, there's naan, which is a leavened bread, but it's made in a tandoor. But India also has hundreds of pancakes and dosas. Now, what are those made out of? You can make them out of anything. You can use rice flour. You can use flour from chickpeas. And those are used for hundreds of things in India. They're very rich in protein. So people use them a lot. They're made into fritters of all kinds, but they're also made into pancakes. And those are very easy pancakes to make. And it's both nutritious and a wonderful snack food and a wonderful lunch, and for some people, a wonderful dinner. Here's a funny thing. We had flatbreads in India, basically. So when the British came and they brought their leavened bread, the loaf of bread, Indians were thunderstruck. What is this thing that has risen so high? And you know what they called it? They called it a double roti because it has risen so much. And so now, over the years, people will make an Indian dish of ground meat or minced meat and potatoes. They love it, lots of spices in it. And very often, they'll eat it with what they call a slice. And a slice is a slice of Western loaf bread. And that is also very popular in India. But then over the years, the mixture of Indian tradition and Western tradition brought forth all kinds of little buns. If you go to Goa, for example, you find a lot of breads like the pav, which is a Goan bread. It's a bun. It's a small bun. And you can go to the streets of India and have something called pav bhaji, which is the pav, which is the bun, and some Indian vegetable dish, a dish of mixed vegetables. And you eat the two together. It's like a hamburger, almost. You eat the two together, and that is known as pav bhaji. So we have buns of various kinds now that are traditionally, they're Indian because they come from a mixed heritage of Europeans of various sorts and the Indians. So there is a massive amount of breads within India that are eaten by different people at different times. It depends on what you have and what you crave for. And what happens with most Indians is because they grew up with chapatis or rotis or rice, they want the rice or chapati or roti of their childhood. That's what makes them comfortable. But for those who've not grown up on it, take a slice and eat it with your Indian food. Now, dal is a very humble thing. In many ways, for an Indian kid, a dal is like mother's milk. Indians just love all their dals. Each one has its own character. And I think all dals, but particularly certain dals like moong dal, have this very soothing, gentle quality to them that feels almost like a blanket. Makes you comfortable, soothes you. I'm now going to make you a dal. It's our word for legume. So what I have here is what we call masoor dal or red lentils, and this came to us originally from Egypt. So this masoor is both hulled and it's split. It's cut into half. And that's the word. Dalna means to split in half, to cut in half. So this is a dal that's split. All right. Here I have a moong dal. This is our native dal. Moong dal is an Indian original dal. And here again, it is in the form that is both hulled and split. So what I'm going to do is put two dals in a bowl. It's a cup of each of the dals. And then the first thing I have to do, in India you would have to pick them, go through them and pick for stones, but you don't have to do that anymore. But they still need to be washed. So I'm going to put it under the sink and you wash with cold water. So here we go. So here's how you wash them. You put enough water. All right. Now you just swish the dal around. Swish it around. And quickly, the first water is not good water. So you want to get it out as quickly as possible. So what you do is just pour it out like that. Now you keep doing this 5 or 6 times till the water runs clear. Now the water is getting clearer, but it's not clear. You have to wait till it's nearly clear. It will not be 100% clear any time, but it has to be much clearer than this. This is just froth that comes out when you wash a dal. A dal has a lot of froth. You'll see more foam later on, and you have to remove most of it, because it's slightly bitter. And if you want the sweetness of the dal, you take the foam out. And you know, you think I'm taking time to do this, but in India, in Ayurvedic medicine, they say the slow act of washing, throwing the water out, cutting, chopping, these are all graces. And we need to have these graces in our life if we want our spirit to rise upwards. So these are little chores, but they're gentle little chores that you do almost without thinking, and you keep doing them, and they're calming, soothing, and help the soul to rise upwards. Here I have the same 2 dals that have been strained through a strainer, and they're all ready to go into the pot. Now I'm going to take the dal and put it in a pot. You can call this plain dal tarka dal because I'm going to give a tarka at the end. Tarka is what we say in the north, but there are many words for it. There's chalk, there's baghar, there are hundreds of terms. In the southerners of India, when they're speaking English, they just said season it. Now, how much water do you put in? It depends. For every cup of dal, I put in about 3.5 cups of water. So here I have 7 cups. I may put a little less in to begin with. Just remember one thing. You can always add water. But when the dal is cooking, you always add boiling water. Don't add cold water to the dal. The reason why you put boiling water is you don't want the dal to stop cooking. All right. So I'm going to wait for it to come to a boil on high heat. And watch. This is a pot that has to be watched because the dal boils over at the drop of a hat. So you watch it, and as soon as it starts rising or foaming, you just be ready and turn the heat down. But first, let the water come to a boil. You see what's happening here? There's a froth rising to the top. And I want the froth to rise, and I want to remove it, and I want to turn it down before it starts rising, because it'll keep rising and overflow. So first, I will start taking the froth with a skimmer and removing it. But I'm keeping an eye on the dal. I just don't want it to boil over. Okay, all the froth will go. This is a very important part of making a clean, sweet dal. Okay, so I'm going to put turmeric in the dal, but I don't put the turmeric until I've skimmed it, otherwise I take most of the turmeric out. Now also you must know, we don't put salt in it till the end, because my mother always said that salt makes the dal not cook. It prevents it from getting soft. Okay, now we're getting to the point where it's just about to boil over. So I'm just going to, for the moment, take it off, turn the heat down, and put it back. You should turn it down or take it off the heat, just till you get it all calmed down. Now, I'm going to put a turmeric and stir it in. We almost always put turmeric in a dal. Almost always. Okay, now I'm going to let it cook on low heat, but I'll take another precaution. Never cover the dal full. Leave it like that. Leave it slightly ajar so it won't boil over. And I'll let it cook for about 45 minutes. I'll check it and see if it needs water. I'll put boiling water if it does need water. If it's fine, I'll just leave it. So now let's look at the dal. It's pretty cooked and ready. Here's the texture of it. You can have it thicker or thinner, just as you want. It shouldn't be al dente. No hard grain when you rub it between your fingers. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some salt. It has no salt. It's cooking without salt, as you know. So about a teaspoon salt, or maybe a little bit more for this amount of dal. And you stir that in, mix it in nicely. And now my dal is waiting for the tarka, and I'm just about to do the tarka. So you can do the tarka with oil, or you can do it with ghee. So I'm going to take some clarified butter, and that's ghee, as much as you like. This much is good for me, for this amount, 2 cups of dal. And I'll let it melt. Okay. is melting here, and I'll let it get nice and hot. A tadka is a way to treat spices. You take oil and you put spices into the oil, plus anything else. I'm going to show you how you can add other things as well. And then you pour that over the dal and you close the lid so all the aromas and flavors and the lovely, lovely smell stays inside. You melt it and you let it get hot. It's important because everything has to sizzle when it goes in. So wait, be patient, let it get hot. So the first thing I'm going to put in is some asafoetida. And this all has to go very fast. Then you put in some cumin seeds. And the cumin seeds will rock and roll inside. They'll sizzle in a mad way, but you have to be fast with everything. Now I'm going to put 2 chilies quickly, and if it's necessary, pick the pot up. You don't want anything to burn. The chilies must get nice and red and hot, and they puff up. So that's what I'm doing with the chilies. And then I'm going to do something strange. I'm going to add onions. Now these are onions that I want to slightly brown. And I'll cook them in here till they turn lightly brown. Now the onions you didn't have to add. I'm just putting them in because I like the taste of browned onions very much. Otherwise you could have just done the classic one, would be just the asafoetida and the cumin and the red chilies. That's the classic one. You don't have to have the onions. What happens in a tadka is that the taste of every spice that you put in intensifies. And what you get as a result is that intensified taste in the dal itself. All right, they're getting brown. I'm just going to get them a little more crisp. They take their time if you want to use these onions, but as I said, you don't have to. I just like the flavor. Okay, now you see how this is turning golden and slightly crisp? I like that in my dal very much. These are the little things that make Indian food wonderful. From being just boiled beans to something else. Here they become something great and grand. And now, what I'm going to do is pour everything that's in here into here. You see that wonderful sound? And cover immediately. Because what you have done here, you have locked in the aroma. And when you're ready to eat, you will just stir this and serve it. A little bit of it you can put on the top, but the rest should be stirred in. And that'll be a wonderful presentation. For Indians, there is a whole world of what we call dals. A dal is actually a split pea, but the word is now used quite loosely to mean anything from whole beans to split beans, beans that have been hulled or split with their skin on. So all this world falls into one category, and we call it just dal. Dals can be ground into powders, and we use the powders for a host of things. We can make chickpea flours into all kinds of pancakes and desserts, and we do that. Now, what I've done with these chickpeas here, I call certain spices my wet trinity and certain spices my dry trinity. So this has both. It has the wet trinity, which is garlic, onion, and ginger, and it has the dry trinity, which is the coriander, cumin, and turmeric, and of course chili powder. But here, I've also used some sliced green chilies, and I've used some tomato. And that's all. It's simple, it's easy to make, it's delicious, it's a perfect lunch dish, and it's a perfect light dinner. And you can eat it with Indian breads, or you can eat it as a salad by itself with cucumbers and radishes and other kinds of salad ingredients. Now, this is the dal that I made. This is moong dal, and one of my absolute favorite dals, mung beans cooked with the tadka. This is easy to make, and I'm sure you'll make it many times. When we sit down to eat an Indian meal, we have our main dishes, which may be cauliflower or a meat dish or a potato dish, but it's never enough. We need our embellishments. So every morsel has scope for excitement and newness as you put it into your mouth. So I'm going to devote this chapter to telling you a little bit about all the other things that we have to have at a meal beside the main dishes. Pickles is one of them. Now, we all make our own pickles, and if we don't, we buy them. The market is filled with Indian pickles. Now, this is a cauliflower pickle that is sweet and sour. They're all different from each other. And the sweetness comes from gur, or raw brown sugar in India. Here I use brown sugar. And then there are mustard seeds and all kinds of other spices that go into the making of this particular pickle. This is another pickle that I've only had in my family, which is basically just green chilies. There's ginger in it. There's mustard seed, crushed mustard seeds. And those form this particular chili pickle, which is much loved in my home. Now, raitas. Raitas are yogurt relishes of various kinds. What you do is take yogurt, just beat it up lightly, and then you put anything in it that you want. So there are all kinds of relishes. You could put almost anything in yogurt and have it as a relish. We like to have that with our meals. And then, of course, there are the fresh chutneys, like chutneys made with mint and green coriander. And here is a chutney that is made with green coriander, and we would love to have that on the side on our plate. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a very important chutney that has been very important in my life. It was at every wedding we had this chutney, and my grandmother made it all the time, so we had it in our house, and that is tamarind chutney. Let me show you what tamarind is. We had a big tamarind tree in our house, and we always had our own tamarinds. And first, they're green, and we used to, as children, love to eat them green. And this is what a tamarind looks like when it's ripe. This is the outer skin. It gets hard as it ripens. And if you break it, see, this comes off. The skin, the hard skin comes off. And inside, oh my God, even now, I can't resist. I just want to break this off and put it in my mouth because I love eating the tamarind just by itself. Okay, so now what happens with tamarind is that they take out the seeds from these kind of tamarinds, and then they put them in a block. And you can buy the blocks in an Indian grocery store. So this is what the blocks look like. They look like this. So what are you looking for when you're buying a block of tamarind? Usually, there are two types of blocks that are available. There is the Thai tamarind. It's a little lighter in color. And so this is the darker tamarind that you get. When you buy it, make sure that the packet is flexible. So you have a piece that I've torn off, the big block, and I'm going to break it like this. See? It comes apart. And if it's flexible, it'll come apart more easily. And I break it up like this, and I'm going to put it in boiling water or hot water. It has to be fairly hot water, and leave it to soak for several hours till it's soft enough to handle and to get the juice out of. So I have very hot boiling water here, and I will leave it to soak for several hours. Don't put too much water. This water is fine, but if you put too much water, you're likely to get it very thin, and you can never thicken it again. This is the trouble, and you want a thick paste. So now here is tamarind that has been soaked. I'm using my hands. Now I'm going to put it in here and just show you a little to show how we get the juice out of it. Now you take a coarse sieve and you begin to push it out. And you do it with your hands because there's nothing else you can use as far as I know. We want only the pulp, and that is why I'm passing it through a sieve. I want to get rid of anything extraneous. You see what's left. There are all these kind of fibers that will be left. There may be some seeds in there which are left. Now, I've got some out, but I haven't got it all out. So what I'm going to do, watch me. I'm going to take all this. Ooh, this is good stuff. And this is thick tamarind paste. Then I will add a little water, not too much. I'm always afraid of adding too much water because, as I said, you can't make it thick again. And you want a thick tamarind paste. So I put a little water to loosen more of the pulp. And I keep doing this till I get all the pulp out. Now, I don't do this every day. I do a huge quantity and I refrigerate it if I'm using it immediately, or I put it in smaller containers and freeze it. It freezes beautifully. And I can take out a smaller amount anytime I want. I defrost it and I'm ready to make a chutney. And this is a slow process, but as I said, you do it once and you put it all away. And then you have gold in your freezer for as long as you want. All right, now I'm going to put a little more because I like to get every last bit of juice out of the tamarind. So I do it several times. I keep adding a little amount of water to get all the juice out. Here we have the tamarind paste. You see how thick it is. And I want it at least this thickness. Now for this, I need to put usually an equal amount of sugar in volume. So this, we know, is the same amount. And I'm going to put the sugar in. I'm going to put it all in. Sour and sweet. That is the nature of tamarind chutney. Mix it. So now you also need salt to balance. So I put some salt. I may need more salt. I will taste. Everything is by taste. Put some salt. Now, you can taste this balance. That's good. Excellent. Now I'm going to put a few other things. I'm going to put some chili powder. If you don't like chilies, don't put chili powder. Okay? I'm going to put ground roasted cumin. We did that earlier, so you know how to roast cumin. I'm going to put some of that. That's an essential taste. Then I'm going to put ginger powder, and it has a special name for it. It's called saunt in the north, and it's used very differently than wet ginger. But in tamarind chutney, you need the ginger powder, so that goes in. And then I'm going to put in some chopped up mint leaves in there, and then mix it up again. And keep tasting and see what you like. If you like it very sour, then put less sugar. If you don't want it sour, you put more sugar. It's really, the wonderful thing with Indian food is you can adjust. It's yours to adjust. All right, just mix it well. Make sure there are no lumps left in the tamarind. So now this is ready for its myriad uses. So I will taste this once again. I haven't tasted it. And I'll show you something that you can do. Okay. Delicious. In our family, we serve this chutney at weddings with banana slices in it. The banana, at the last minute, you slice bananas into it, and you serve it to all the guests, along with hundreds of other foods that they're eating, but you have this tamarind chutney as well. Now, here's something that I do at my dinner parties. I don't make banana chutney. I take a banana and break it off. Okay. Then I peel it. And for every guest, I make a few slices. So for each person, I will give them a little serving like this. I'll take this little one off of bananas, and then I dribble some chutney over the top. So there we are. You have banana with mint chutney, and you serve it in a small little plate to all your guests. Each one has their own little serving of banana with tamarind chutney. We are going to go into a special world of street food. What is street food? Indian street food is chaat, C-H-A-A-T, and chaat means to lick. So anything that is so luscious that you're licking your lips after that forever, you do that. When do you do that? When something is hot, sweet, sour, it just titillates every aspect of your palate. That is what we call chaat. So I'm going to make just one of those dishes and show you how you can make street food at home. And here again, when I have my dinner parties, I will often serve this street food as my first course. So I make it very often with my friends, for my friends, and offer it as a very first course. So I just put 2 or 3, enough to get the juices going. That's the whole purpose. You get your juices going when you eat this kind of food. So these are little, we call them either papris or we call them puris. There are different words for them, but you can buy them in the market. And they're crisp and they come in this shape. So I'm going to take 3. If one of them doesn't work out, there's a thicker side and a thinner side. So you put the thicker side at the bottom and the thinner side on the top. Let's say we do 3 per person. The first thing you do is you make a hole in it. And how do you make a hole? Like this. You need to make a hole to put in potatoes, boiled potatoes cut small, and cooked chickpeas, which you can get out of a can if you want, or you can boil them in a pressure cooker. So each one has to, some break like this. That's your luck. Okay, never mind. And here's another one. You break the softer part like so. All right. Now into that go a few pieces of potato. 3 or 4 pieces of potato each. The potatoes are boiled. Make sure they're fully boiled and chopped. You don't want them hard in any way. And I've done it now with 3 of them. So now there's substance in this puri. Then I put a few chickpeas. 4, 5, something like that, whatever fits. All right. You can't do much else. You have to wait because these are crisp and they will turn soggy, and you do not, the last thing you want is to have them soggy. So do this just, I would do it 5 minutes before we eat. Usually when we are having a big dinner, what I will do is ask some friends to join me, and we do a little assembly line. And everybody does this in the last 5 minutes quickly. You put first a little tamarind chutney inside. This is the chutney you made. You can put a teaspoon or a bit more. It all depends on your taste. Now this is plain yogurt, plain, absolutely plain yogurt that is beaten. I'm going to put this in, a teaspoon of or less of that, but it has to come way to the top. I want to see it. I want to see it on the top. Okay. Now I put ground roasted cumin. You remember we roasted cumin? I want a little sprinkling of that. So you see all this color on top? All right. And I have chili powder. And if it falls on the plate, that's fine. All right. And salt. I haven't got salt in this because the yogurt has no salt in it so far. And then I have a choice. I can put a third chutney. This is now my green chutney, which is made of green coriander. And this is the chutney that goes on top. Ooh, like that. Ooh, maybe over here. Maybe over here. And then, this is something optional. These are called save, little noodly things that you buy. They're made out of chickpea flour. And there's a mold, and you put the chickpea flour dough in that mold, and you turn it, and these things come out from the bottom, and they go into hot oil, and they are fried very quickly. And these are the save, made of chickpea flour, that you put way over the top. Okay, so you would serve the plate like that, and these have to be eaten immediately. It's a big thing, and you have to pick it up and get the whole thing in your mouth in one go. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's just delicious. It's just delicious. If you go through the length and breadth of India, in each state, each province, each city, each village, people are doing different things according to their own personal traditions. When Indians sit down to dinner, they don't all do the same thing. But also, we have a lot in common. We are a nation that uses their fingers to eat. In my family, which considered itself fairly westernized, we sat on a table and we had plates. But because we were so many, we were over 30 people in my particular family, it was 3 tables that had been put together that faced the Jamuna River in Delhi. And we all ate our own food. My grandfather and grandmother were at the far end. I didn't know my grandmother was vegetarian because I couldn't see her plate ever. She was so far away. So that's how we ate. That was our family tradition of eating. But other people in India use thals, which are metal plates of different metals, and into that they have little bowls which we call katoris. And then you have your rice, your bread, your papadam maybe. Sometimes you eat on a banana leaf. In South India, very often you will eat on a banana leaf. And all the food will be put on the banana leaf, and you will have your rice on the banana leaf, you will have your vegetables and your dal, and you will eat that together. Of course, the foods we eat in India have changed. Vegetarianism has come into being. We've had Buddhism and Jainism, 2 religions that don't eat meat at all, which have had their influence. So things change over time and things are still changing. So nothing is static in India, as it is anywhere. Nothing is static anywhere. I'm going to eat a meal and show you how Indians eat a meal. So I have chapatis. There's ghee on them. Sometimes you can put ghee. And then I have my main meal, which is cauliflower and potatoes and eggplant that has been roasted and cooked with ginger, onions, tomatoes, things like that. And it's really roasted and cooked, thoroughly cooked down. And then I have 2 pickles. I have a sweet and sour cauliflower pickle, and I have a very hot chili pickle. And then here I have a riot bun. So how do you eat it? All right, here's the chapati. The first thing I do is I take a piece of chapati here. Then I take a little bit of the eggplant, if that's what I want to eat, and I put that in my mouth. I want a little bite of this. Very nice. I want a little green chili. Yum. I want some raita. Take a little piece of bread, dip it in the yogurt. Very nice. I'm having a lovely meal here. Eating with the hands is such a sensual experience. Nothing is coming between you and the food. No utensils of any kind. It's your body and your food. It's sensual and it's the deepest kind of pleasure that you can get. And you are controlling everything. Controlling how much you put in each morsel, what flavors you want to mix together. You want just the chili with this, or you want a little bit of cauliflower as well? You can combine 2 things in one morsel and eat that. It is very sensual. It provides deep pleasure. I know I'm talking with my mouth full and I should stop. मेरा नाम मधुर जाफरी है और ये है मास्टर क्लास।